All right, in order to build this is quite a little bit challenging, but first I like to place a foundation kind of where the river is. I like to go 2 out. Get my ramp up because we're going to have a floor stacked foundation. You want to get above this twig where the rope is on the top side. Now, this is the first pretty important step. In order to place our foundations, we can't actually place it. There are some instances where you can, but usually I can't place it while it's on the floor because sometimes the river has different heights and levels, so it causes our foundation to move. So what I found works is there's a point to where the foundation grazes on the floor and then it starts to lift up, that 90-degree socket right there. But once you find that point to where the foundation starts raising, right when it starts raising, hold Alt, place your foundation, and then jam the second foundation into the socket. See if this is good. You want to test that this turns blue, and also if you really want to make sure that you're good, as long as this one turns blue, we're really good to go. All right. Next, you want to test your ramp. The height is pretty important on this. You want the tip of this ramp to either be flush with the water or about 2 twigs low. I think I'm right on the borderline of how high you can be in order for this to work. All right, we'll see how it goes. What we're gonna do just to show the setup. Place the door facing out towards the ramp. Door controller. A button. Then connect the output to the power in. Go ahead and test. Make sure it works. Now what I like to do is place a square roof here and a triangle roof here, and you'll see why later on. Now, testing purposes, this actually works best with hike wall, and I'll show you other ways to get around this later. But just for now, to make sure this works, make sure we have enough distance. I'm going to use hike wall because it has the furthest distance. What I mean by that, as you can see, is twig will go to the edge. As you upgrade, you can see that it starts to get farther and farther. And hike wall actually has the biggest lip that comes out. So I'm just using that right now. This lip is going to be what catches the bobber and kind of flips it over. Now we just wanted to test to make sure the bobber goes over, and it does. Now if you didn't want to use hike wall, there's certain things you can do. Like use a rug. Make sure it gets all the way over to the edge. But again, you can see the edge of the rug is kind of in line with this twig and the rope right there. And it doesn't go too far. As you upgrade this, now you can see it's definitely past. And if you upgrade it even one more time, you can see that the rug kind of gets even a little bit farther. But if this is server start, right on fresh wipe, you're probably just going to use, at minimum, go wood. This acts as our lip. That also works. And if you need it even more, what you can do, sometimes this works, is put another small wooden sign. And this will also act as a lip to get the bobber even farther out. All right. So for the purpose of this, I'm going to be using high qual just because it's easiest. Now, in order to get the bobber all the way to us, in theory, you could use these, but they're very temperamental. You'll see that it says invalid angle and you can't place. If you click about 1,000 times, it will eventually place. But I found it much easier if I just use the sand barriers, because these will actually place on the first time every time. So what you want is to get an angle that's kind of in line with the river itself, and you want it as low as possible. And I'll show you why. If we kind of go at an angle, you can see that when we place our bobber, and the placement of these sandbags are always going to be different for everybody, I think, because of the elevation of the river or the steepness of the river. I can't give you a straight landmark to shoot for, but generally you want to stick the side in and have it elevate with the ramp itself. So for this, we're going to test, see what happens. As you can see, we get up, but the bobber gets stopped. And that's usually because there's a gap here. In order to stop that gap, we can place these wooden signs. This will actually bridge the gap and make it a smooth transition. And you can actually place these all the way down. Now, the reason why I have this triangle here is because, one, it gives me a landmark on where to throw from. And the bobber gets perfectly stuck in here, so you can pick it up. So again, let's test. If you really want the perfect landmark, you go to the third tile up, second tile over. There is this circle pattern. Generally, for me, this has been the perfect spot to stand. Now we'll go ahead and test. Now with the bobber placement, I found that getting it as far over to the left helps out with the collision of the ramp. So go as close as you can. And what I do is I throw it and then I hold Alt. You can freely look. You can press this button. Now see how the bobber disappeared? Because I was too far over to the right, and what happens with that is the bobber gets around this angle, and what happens is it just cuts off your bobber. So now, try to get a little bit more over to the left. Hold Alt to look. That goes where just necessary. And we can get it to roll all the way down. And usually the catch animation or the bobber stays out there longer, so this is an instant catch, but sometimes the fish bite early. But when they bite early, all it is an easy grab. It stops there, instant catch. And I'm not perfectly on this, but this is the line for kind of instant catch, would be more so right here. And once you get that, you are good to go. Now, there are a lot of different things that can happen, a lot of variables. That's why you need to test on different servers. I'm on Intoxicated Sandbox, and this has a bunch of rivers for you to use. Some of them, I found that this one on the top left is actually too flat. But I have been able to do it on all the other rivers. There's a bunch of them for you to try down on this map. Now, a lot of different things could go wrong. Obviously, if you misplace the sandbag, I do try to keep these twig so you can break it and retry. But let's say you place this sandbag the reason why you want to put the sandbag as low as you can, because if you try to lift this up really and bring it in line with the ramp, you might be able to. I have been able to use just the sandbag and no wooden signs to get it to roll down. And here's a good instance of it. But the bobber does not get stuck in here, and the fish is able to kind of swim out. But also, if you place it too high and you try to place ramps, this kind of cuts out your vision for your bobber, and you won't be able to really place the bobber in a good spot. Now here I was able to, so that's a bad example, but it doesn't work perfectly every time. See, with having the sandbag too high, what you're doing is forcing the bobber over to the left a little bit too much, which in turn makes the door, when it swings open, it forces the bobber around this and cuts the line. Now we'll go over a complete guide on how to build this. If it's just server wipe, this is kind of how I would do it. Build the full base out. Good thing about this fishing base compared to my last one is this one's fully connected. You don't have any free floating foundations. So again, top of the twig. Go out right where it hits that 90, just above. Hold Alt to look. Test. You can test here. What I would do is actually you can place this lower one, because we're going to use that. Test this, make sure you have good height. I believe I do. You can obviously set this up however you want, but I would put the TC in here. Now, for these, I would definitely like to leave these twig. Now we're going to have a kind of a setup like this. I don't use that one, but in order to get the smallest footprint, close this off with two walls here. I recommend upgrading this to sheet metal. You can turn it into a triangle if you do the build out, if you want to. Don't have to, just leave it like that. All right, then you could just come all the way around. Now you're kind of left with this. You can upgrade this, but again, I recommend leaving these as twig. And if you want to protect them, you can come out here and put that as stone. We could obviously make these stone or any texture you want later once you have it fully set up and you're confident. Now, to close this off, put high walls all around. Get your airlock. we're looking like this. We are going to have a door frame here for a double door. Now, obviously, we're going to have a floor stacked building, so we will be closing this. And again, you can do this however you want. But for me, you can either place these, and all I do is get low walls, and close these off. If you're worried about people saw-siding through that and seeing through, you can put a little bit more protection if you wanted. You can do it how you want. That's kind of how I add it. Now you're good to go. Building this whole base out before you test everything is kind of a risk, so it's probably better to do it with a buddy. But if you're in here and you feel confident with it, again, you could use this method. You don't want to upgrade to high quality. We are in business. If you ever want a little bit more speed, what you can do is actually angle these ramps. Instead of just being flat, you kind of lift them up and put the left side a little higher than the right side. Will offer a little bit more speed. You could also do this if you're if you place your sandbag a little too flat. Now that we got a little bit more speed to it, we're good. You can leave the setup like this, of course. I think I'm just gonna be going to high qual. It seems to work out better for me. But whatever works for you. And there we go. That's your setup. You could obviously raise some of these foundations. And there is areas for you to put loot boxes. Create this how you want. You can make this as high, as wide as you want, but this is, I found to be the smallest footprint for me. That works the best. A little low profile. Real quick, so people don't yell at me, what you can expect. This is super cheap. You could even remove the ramp. And also, forgot to upgrade that. And in theory, you could upgrade these two if you wanted to and not have the triangles on the outside, because this doesn't really matter. You could leave this there the whole time. This really is just this piece. You needed to get rid of it to restart with some of the sandbags.